So we have lots more windows open, and when that happens, screen real estate becomes really, really important. Let's see. Users that don't have the layout that they want, that they can't get it laid out the way that they want to work, they get unhappy. And this is, let me go to the next slide. We get email in, and it'd say, I can't get the layout I want. And we'd say, well, what is it you're trying to do? I don't know, but your tool just doesn't do it right. And then you say, well, can you expand on that? No, you cannot gather the information of what layouts they're looking for by text. You have to see it. So we went to these user-to-user conferences where we sat down with users, we filmed them, we gave them a prototype that did all kinds of stuff, and we watched what they did. And we learned three things. Users have a strong opinion on layouts. I had a guy that came in and said, all the windows should be undocked, standalone, tiled, and that's the only way to do it. And if you don't do it that way, you're doing it wrong. That's the only way to do it. And then the next guy came in and he said, windows should always be in a tab group. Just give me one big window with all the tab groups, and if you don't do it that way, you're doing it wrong. And I was thinking, we should get these two guys together to talk. That would have to be pretty interesting. So they have strong opinions, and if it doesn't do it the way they want it, they're unhappy. The second thing is they all have a different opinion on the way it should work. No two users use the same window layout. And the last thing is any one user, their layout changes depending on what they're doing. If they're writing, if they're coding, they're going to want one layout. If they're running a simulation, that's a different one. If they're analyzing something, they want a different layout. So in all this research and watching these users, we came up with three basic formats of windows. One is the pane window. This is the obvious one. I mean, all these formats you guys have seen, you've got panes, they're all visible. You can drag the stash and change their size, right? You got tab windows where you have tabs in the bottom, and you select a tab, it raises that one, and so forth. And you have what we call undocked windows. These are just windows that have been ripped out of the pane manager, and they're standalone, all right? What we found with the users was there were a few extremes. I want it just this way and not these other ways. But in most cases, they wanted a combination of it. And so we spent a lot of time. Our goal here was we got to make everybody happy. We got to make these users happy, and that means we got to do all this stuff. And Brian, I want to show a little demo here also. So I'm going to show you the keys with the window layout were they need to be able to resize it. Yeah, just go right over to it. So they want to be able to resize it, but they also want to be able to reposition it. So I'm going to show you a couple of features. This is the recent version of ModelSim 6.5. So you got your standard, this is 6.6. That means this is untested. You can resize your panes, or you can change their size, but we needed a feature to change their position. So I don't know if other tools do this, but you can grab a header of one of these windows. And notice as I move it around, that, what happened there, Brian?
Don't squeeze them.
Don't squeeze them, okay. As it moves around, you see these drop regions? So if I release right there, you can see now this is, we call it the squash bug, but you can see it move that over there. Easier to do it here. If I drop this down to the side here, those do split. The way this algorithm works, it's built on the pane manager, and we put layers in the pane manager where each layer changes the orientation. So one layer is horizontal, the next one's vertical. Following this algorithm, you can get any layout you can think of. Undocking, this one's been around. We've had this for a little while, but you pop it out, and there it's standalone. You can undock them all. Well, we had one more issue, and that was tab groups. And there's a problem with tab groups it just comes with them, and that is, which windows do you group together? Well, at one time we said, well, you group the windows that are alike. So we have like 7 code coverage windows. We'll put them all in a tab group, call this code coverage. And that, people think that makes sense, except for the people that want to see the code coverage windows side by side. In fact, just like layouts, no matter what you do, no one's going to agree on which windows should be in the same tab group. So we added another feature, which is the ability for the user to change the tab group. Now notice as I drag that over, there's a drop region right there. When I do that, it rips out the window in that tab group and places it on the drop location. And if it's just one window, it becomes a tab group, otherwise it adds to it. So between you know, manipulating these tab groups and undocked windows. One other one that's requested is quick maximize. So if I press the plus button up here, boom, it goes right to this layout. Now they can get at the other windows from here, but sometimes there's moments, you know, for a 1 minute span where they really want to zoom in, they can come back when they're done, and it goes back the way it was. So anyway, these were some of the things that we did in response to so many windows. These were problems that we had with, you know, when you hit 53 windows, you've got a lot of them. And here's, oh, I haven't done. I don't think there's any left on there. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I want to mention there. Yeah. No, go. Yeah, go back to the slide. The last one is there's two TK commands I'd really like to have. One of them is tell me what the user's thinking, and the other one is do the right thing. Because if we had those two commands, we could solve a lot of problems.
Tip 131.
Okay. Windows would be good too. So the layouts, you know, they're switching things around. I'm doing code coverage today. I'm doing profiling the next day. Now I'm editing code. What layout do we give the user? Well, in our tool, we know what state. We can tell where the user's heading. If they turn on code coverage, we know they're going to be doing that. And what we found was, if we go to the last layout they were using when they were doing code coverage, that's most likely, or most of the time, that's going to be the best choice. Any other guessing we make is, you know, we'll get it 20% of the time. So we added modes to the tool. When they're, you know, when they start a simulation, we go to their last layout they had on the simulation. When they go to, you know, some other mode, we go to the last layout, and we're right 50% of the time. But the only way we can get the other 50% is if we have the can you tell me what the user's thinking. Also, we found that by project, I don't know how many, I have Sandbox. I have 3 sandboxes. When I go into a sandbox, I bring up my Visual Studio to edit. It replaces all the windows that I was, in the positions I was working on when I left that sandbox. Go to a different one, I get a different set. That's a really nice feature because it kind of helps me remember what was I doing when I left here. So we also save our layouts by directory, by project. And we found that that's right most of the time as well. So that's all I have. Any questions?
For a particular task, how many windows would the user want to have open at the same time?
It depends on the task. If they're analyzing a waveform, they may have 3 windows up. If they're doing something like code coverage where there's all different ways you can look into it, they could have 15 up. And in some cases, you know, they may have even more. Brian, can you switch us back one time? Will you?
Apple,
Okay. Yeah. Right there? Okay, here we go. Just to give you an example. This will take a while. And this actually isn't even all of them. But the toolbars and windows and anyway. Any other questions? Yeah.
Are all those tab windows being done by an off-the-shelf package, or is it a lot of stuff you guys have developed in-house, people drag and drop?
There was a lot of stuff we did in-house. It involved changes to the pane manager. We implemented a thing called the window manager, which kind of does a different part of it. And there's still some more work to do. The next thing the users complain about is they don't like the order, they want to change the order of the tabs. And so that's what we've got to do next. I don't know why that's so important, but they want it over here, and we got to do that. So.
How are you storing all these relationships? Are you using any of the Tickle object packages? Or,
For storing the layout data?
yeah, just keeping track of, hey, we've got all these windows in this particular environment or this work set, et cetera.
Yeah, I call it a serialization string. It's actually a Tickle list, and it has like the window name and some parentage information. And we store that all on the list, and I can ask the pane manager, give me the serialization string, store it up in the registry, at any time I can go to the registry and take that serialization string and say, unserialize it, and just pipe it right back in, and it parses through the list. So we store it in the registry. It's by user.
And are you talking about one list for this, everything we see?
Yep.
So you can have as many of those as you want, obviously.
Yeah, you can define your own layouts, and in fact, the layout stuff is even smarter than that. If I close a window, even though it's hidden, I know where it was at. And the next time you ask me to raise that window, I'll bring it back up. So these are huge lists. These are big pieces of data, and it's not something that you can read. It's just there's too much stuff in it.
The pain, if you understand how the pain manager works, then it's obvious why it's a list. But the pain manager is just keep dividing horizontally and vertically. So you take rectangle, divide it in half, and you have 2 panes, and you divide each of those vertically. And so, so it's just a nested list that represents the nested windows. And there's a flag that says whether it's a horizontal split or vertical split.
Is it so arranged that you can just sequentially proceed through it or traverse it? Traverse the tree and create the windows in order? And that works?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's embedded list and list, and going down the hierarchy on it.
Just refers to it.
Yeah.
I recognize some of the stuff that Brian presented in 2004. And I'm wondering, now that you've got to the point where, so far, they're asking for the tabs to be reordered, you think you'll get to a point where you'll be able to say, here it is, and then customers can be quiet, or do you think?
No, I even the tab ordering, how it drags and slides, no two customers are going to agree. Oh, it's sliding too fast. It's sliding too slow. It should break out quicker. I mean, they're not going to agree. We'll find something that's close, and then they'll find some other thing that's, that this is a never ending. It's job security.
Question?
Yeah.
So, do you or do you intend to expose this scripting interface to the end users?
To do what
Reading it the
part?
right way, they can run the window machine.
I'm not fully
Based on conditions, what am I trying to do? What did I just do?
They have, they can define named layouts. So they can create a layout and
They can save it under
give it a
name.
name.
Yeah, you've got, same layout. It'll ask you for a name. I can type in there. You have
There's also commands to do the same thing.
configure. Yeah, we have an ensemble on it, so you can say layout save. There's, yeah. Yeah, some users use this heavily. Some of them don't ever touch it. They use the default ones and just go with that.
You give them a discount.
Okay, thank you.
That brings us to the end, excuse me, brings us to the end of today's presentation, today's papers. People are on your own for dinner. Box will be in this room after dinner, around 8 o'clock, or we'll have the hospitality suite open 5:31. Depending on how big your mouth is and how strong your need for beer is, you can either be up here or down there. Let's see. Any other questions or anything else I was supposed to announce?
You mentioned what the buffs are.
What they are?
have currently.
Oh, let's see. Safe interpreters, was Teapot tonight or tomorrow night? Teapot tomorrow.
Big numbers?
Oh, big drums, okay, that's the other one tonight. There's a sign-up sheet of sorts out front, but you really don't have to sign up, just show up for the boss. But it'll let you know what, at least somebody thinks they're going to talk about, would like to argue about.
And today's offers, if you have additional material you would like on the electronic copy of the proceedings, please get that to me as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's what's on my list. This is what the Indies will have this year. It's a 2 gigabyte USB stick that becomes a little Chinese puzzle and folds up and you can't figure out how to open it again. And it's machined in with Pickle 2009. Courtesy of Steve Redler. I think that's about it. Like I said, dinner's on your own. There are places to meet around. And then it just kind of went away and stopped calling me.
So if you've heard the great Essing
Well, so I didn't push it. Last I heard.
Anybody know what I mean by the great
Essing use of TCL.
should.
Is this the thing with the extent 4 file system?
Yes.
And the 0
Yes.
files?
Yes.
Yes, I've read
I
about it.
think that they're starting to turn on their.
So what is the problem?
Tell.
Tell us.
Are you gonna tape this?
Yes.
No, I'm not gonna do anything that might go on a public record.
Richard, don't be shy.
No,
Don't be shy, boy.
That was another one.
no, nothing for the permanent
We were
record.
saying
Oh, yay.
It was gonna be a big hit and then all of a
I
sudden.
cannot
Sorry.
stop it. Sorry.
No, what we need to do is start breaking into,
Oh,
I'm gonna let you down.
Yeah, apparently there was an awful lot of fiber got laid.
Well, the great
Hit
Essing
the
bug
dot-com era.
is,
People thought it
this
would
came
just
up
keep
with
growing these amounts.
Firefox.
But now they're starting to do the video.
They're the ones that discovered it. You know, they're using SQL a lot. And they were doing transactions, and at each transaction, at various points we call Essing. What Essing's supposed to do, flush the contents of a file to disk and make sure it's actually on Oxide before it returns. And we have to do this, not because we need the thing on Oxide, but because we need a write barrier. Certain writes have to occur for other writes. If they occur out of order, when you lose power, you can corrupt a database file. So, in order to make sure that it's occurring in the right sequence, we call fsync twice during a transaction commit. So, this normally takes milliseconds. It's not a big deal. But some users can make it reported that fsync was sometimes taking up to 30 seconds on their Linux kernels. Could not reproduce this on Windows, could not reproduce this on Mac, nothing. So only on Linux.
Yeah, it's probably.
ext3. It was taking up to 30 seconds to do an fsync.
Yeah, it was really fascinating.
So what it turns out is that ext3, depending on how you configure it, you know, it's a journal and file system. And so when you do an fsync, it's really only supposed to sync that one file that you're. But because of the journal, and it's a single journal, it actually has to sync absolutely everything it's been doing in order to catch up the journal. And so if you've got something else running in the background, which is say doing a disk backup or something, or you've got a kernel build going and it's changing lots and lots of files,
It's gotta roll the journal through.
it's got to roll the journal through all of this stuff in order to f-sync this one thing. It's going to write 2 sectors to the disk to satisfy this. But there's 10,000 other sectors that it has to write before it gets to those 2, you see. And that was taking 30 seconds. So that's a problem. What do we do about that? This only happens on certain journaling modes.
Tools
And one option is to use a different journaling mode.
and there's a whole other side.
Firefox, of course, they need a product that's going to work regardless of,
programming. And
know,
that's where you have
It's arguably a problem with
TNT, TPS.
but Firefox can't, deliver a web browser and say, well, this doesn't work on Linux because ext3 is supposed to. That's not going to work for them. They've got to work around it. And so they did all sorts of elaborate things. They got to work with
hire movie stars.
And,
movies, so
but
you could go
they
there.
put a lot of man-hours into it to get that work.
TBS was doing a. James
But anyway, this got
Bond
people
marathon,
looking at
so we
things.
hired Grace Jones
And
to be there
it turns out that on
and
things
she
like the
spent the whole
KDE
time getting
desktop,
drunk and partying.
they're not using SQLite. But they have these bazillions of little
adult film stars.
files, little small files that contain configuration information. And their strategy for updating these files
That sounds like a.
is that they would,
The only
whenever there would be an update, they would write the new file into something, and then they would rename the new file on top of the old one.
Everything else are not as weird there as they are.
And they were operating under the assumption that this was an atomic operation.
Pretty close to it.
And turns out it was not.
Nuclear operations.
And so if they were in the middle of doing this and you killed power, you could
They didn't
leave
push the state of the art on it.
KDE or GNOME in a state where it would not boot.
Seen that happen.
God,
Never seen
when
that
they're
happen.
professor talking.
All the thing.
So we have to rewrite the command to be the fully qualified name when it tries to invoke it.
No, the command structure is identifying what namespace is. Or at least if the command is proc, the procedure knows what namespace is in, and in fact, if you've hidden it, doesn't change.
Okay, well, I didn't know it already knew, that's why I was suggesting adding the knowledge to that.
Oh, and so if we didn't have the rename requirement ahead of time, maybe we still have that knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been trying to say is that the constraints imposed by the rename requirement are confusing the issue because those constraints go away if you don't rename it. And we know it's problematic to rename things.
Push to record, push again, push record.
Fortunately, some of you will remember me from the last year, because I managed to get to the conference last year to present very similar topics. This is almost the same presentation as last year. So. Now, in fact, this presentation is based on what I presented at the European conference this year. The subject is the Google Summer of Code. This is, some kind of program run by Google, which allows us to make some students interact with the community. And Radek is one of the students which was participating in that program, and as he was quite successful being on the chat and interacted with some of you, TICL Community Associated, they agreed to sponsor his trip to this conference so we can meet face to face with some of you. Okay. Maybe I would like to also ask how to proceed with this presentation, because I have quite a few slides. But in this room there are quite a few mentors who participated in the program, and they can give you first-hand impression how it was to work with the student, and they can say, I think, a little bit more about specific projects that I can, because I was only I have only a bird's eye view on this method. Okay, so let's start. I think that I should start with saying something about me. My main daily job is to run the company, small company in Poland, in Gdańsk, which uses TICL extensively. I have quite a few. There are quite a few other users of TICL in my area. Most of those team was trained by me in the last 10 years. There are also some TICLers in Poland, in the southern Poland. Some names you may recognize, like Wojciech Kocjan, who's a guy who was quite active some times ago. And Gugi, I cannot check his name because there was no internet. This is the guy who created SQLite Studio. There are some other, companies even from my industry. This is Ant-Industrial Software System. And some organization use TICL, for example, ONET. This is major Polish portal like Yahoo in US. They use our server to serve the main page. But I think this is just, that's the redirector. What was difficult for me to get here, because it's that I run my own company, so it was quite hard to manage to fly to the US and to leave my business to be, controlled by my employee. But it turned out that I'm not very well prepared for this presentation and for the, making some summary to this program, because I was just preparing all my private stuff. But first, let's remind you what is my motivation for being active in this program. I think it's also could be summarized with this statement that in fact I have this contact with some talented student and I can direct them to TICL TK. I usually work with them in some kind of internship, doing some work for my company, but there are subjects which are not in direct interest of my company, and I thought that this Google Summer of Code is a possibility to direct them to some mentors, and the communities in general can benefit from the work. So, what is this Google Summer of Code program? I don't know if how many people are never heard the term. Oh, just so maybe we should just go very quickly for this project. In fact, the goal of this program is to bring to the open source community, and Google, gives students $500 for working for approximately 12 weeks for selected open source project. This is a possibility to, to financially motivate students to be involved with our community. There are also some money going to the mentoring organization. This is $500 per student. We've got 9 students last year and this year, so this approximately $9,000 going to the Tickle Community Association. If all mentors donate their money to Tickle Community Association, because it's not mandatory, but it is organized that way that it's difficult to do it differently, in fact. And how this program works? In fact, open source project, they apply to Google, so they be included in the list of accepted organizations who will get the funding. And then this organization should advertise among students. Students apply to some project proposal put forward by the organization. And when everything is somehow settled, the work starts in the beginning of summer. It's usually beginning of June. And students get paid in parts. This is in the beginning, it's $500, then $2,000 in the midterm, and after finishing the project, they get another $2,000. And students work with somebody who is called mentor. This is a community member who supervises the project, and that person is counsel the student how he can proceed with this project. There are some summary what is the history of Google Summer of Code. We've been there for the 2nd year. Last year we have 9 students. This year the students we were funded. We were given money to fund 9 students because there were quite a few more applying for us. This year it was the same like last year. What's important here is just that this year was much harder because there were less money from Google, and there were, Google decided that it will not fund additional slots. Because, for example, last year there were 1,100 planned, but they funded 125. And all of these additional 25 slots, we received 5. So it was, a great difference for us. This year, it was 9 slots. But, there were less organization. This is only 150, so there were also more competition getting to Google. Tickle was able to, to apply to Google Summer of Code as as they call it, umbrella organization, because in the application we write that we are the federation of projects like TK, which in fact could be a separate project. We mentioned Altserver and TabiServer. This is a fork of Altserver. OpenACS. This is Gustav Neumann is here from OpenACS community. We said that we are an umbrella organization for AMSN. You probably know this. Jackal, Exotica, and all of this stuff. It worked quite well last year because this is I think why we received all these additional 5 slots. Because this is for, I said, oh, we need at least 1 slot for each of these projects, so maybe it worked out. This year it didn't work out that well. And I think that what is important is who is involved in this activity from the community. In fact, our application was successful when it was done by Matthew Burke. This is a professor at Washington University. He was attending last year's conference, and some of you remember him. He also put the application this year because, I think that it's important that this application be put by some native speaker, so it looks correct. As you can hear, my English is rather as it is. But in fact, Matthew Roll was, only to put the application. He said that he will help us during the summer, but it turned out that he was busy with some other matters, so he was in fact inactive. And that was the only remaining people who make this organization stuff. In fact, I would like somebody to help me because, sometimes as I run my own business, I just have no time, so some things just have to wait. Oh, it's not good. And also, these two guys were very active, Clifford and Jeff Hobbs, because Jeff Hobbs, I know that he's the guy who will help me if there is something needed. For example, when I haven't written, announcement about, congratulating students that they selected, or Jeff was just step in and just write about it. So that was great. But probably all of these guys are quite, visible in the public discussion. Here are the projects which they supervise this year or now some kind of the area of expertise they decided. So what's next? This slide I will just. You have to know that this. The preparation take place in the February and in the March. There is organizational work which is concentrated in these 2 months. This is where I in fact spent quite a lot of time. I think that it is it's approximately 2 weeks effort. 2 weeks to work full time to just make this happen. This is the organization, and the real coding starts somewhere in June. It ends in the end of August. And there is a mentor summit at Google, which is organized somewhere in October. We will be attending, I and Jeff Hobbs will be attending this mentor summit this year. So we'll try to, get in touch with other projects. Maybe there will be some interesting outcomes from this. And this is how I coded, some splash screen to show students so they could be somehow, so they can apply for us. This is just stating some facts, what we do, how much they get paid, where they can find something about our organization, what is the scope, where TCL is used. I think that what's important that we were funded at 9 students. For example, PHP was 10 in the 208. So when we